If you ever doubted that I was a boss bitch, well, I'm a boss bitch. And my name is 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 Boss Bitch. 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 Hello, sister.
Hello, sister.
Aw, I miss your voice. I'm too tired to do an intro. Okay, good. You do it.
A queer science fiction writer who has not had a chance to write much science fiction in the last few months. Theologian, a mother of dragons who just keep becoming more dragonish. And a healing justice facilitator for social movements, living in rural Minnesota, but soon to be living in Minneapolis.
Okay, I'm going to get to that more. I'm Adrienne Marie Brown, author of books, and this is our podcast.
How to Survive the End of the World, where we go off track and get right back on it because we know that ultimately where we're ending is the apocalypse. Welcome to the show.
We're here, and I'm going to tell you, okay, so... I'm so grateful that this show is a living embodiment of how we are right now. And that's what people are going to experience. So I can say a little bit about what's been going on for me, which is this year has been a whirlwind. So like last year was a one kind of whirlwind. I was turning and facing some really old trauma that needed to come up. That was like, I'm ready to come up now. Mm-hmm. I was turning and facing that for much of the year and trying to still interact with people and still be really coherent, while also just at any moment knowing that something might emerge from my memory that wanted attention. And then the IRS came for me. And so last year was this year of like a scarce sense of resource and a scarce sense of safety, and trying to really be myself and like receive the love that the world had to offer to me. But I had a scarce sense of like love and support. Like I was just like, I don't have enough. Right. Yeah. And then I feel like towards the end of last year, I hit this zone of like, I've got everything I need because I've got all the best people around me and like life is good. There's a lot of people who actually really love me, like really care how I am and have my back. And I just have come into this year was like, this year is pleasure activism is coming out and I am good, right? And I really want to lean into what it feels like. And I come back to this often. My friend Spenta Kandawala, who's also a teacher of mine through generative somatics, said that once to me, like, you know, what would it look like to just be able to say I'm good? Like when someone asks you how you are, to instead of starting off with the litany of, you know, here's everything that's wrong. It's more like, oh, here, I'm good. Actually, fundamentally, I'm good. And I've been really leaning into that as a practice this year of like, well, what does it mean to authentically say I'm good? And what it means is like things take off, right? Like that energy is very palpable and people want more of it. And I feel like every time I turn around, there's an invitation waiting for me. And none of them are really invitations that I'm like, nope. You know, they're mostly things that I'm like, oh, yeah. Yes, that sounds great too. Yeah, I want to go do that. Yes, you want this and it wants you, you know. So there's been a lot of, like, I'm just like, yeah. And like with love everywhere, like I feel like the cup spilling, pouring forth. So much love. You know, I said I got to do a panel last week with Danny, my super woe from forever. And she was talking about her book, We Live for the We. And I was talking about pleasure activism and like thinking about, you know, what's at the intersections of those pieces. And something that came out for me was like, I want to live and work in spaces where I'm only around people that I really love and care about and that are a pleasure to me. Yeah. And I feel like this year has been the year of getting to experience that. So I've been doing these immersions. We did 3 of these last year. It's basically like take 4 days and just really immerse people in emergent strategy and co-create an experience. And we did 3 experiments last year in Detroit and they were pretty chill and like, learned a lot from them. And like my perfectionist stuff, it's really interesting to see how it comes out in these, because I'm like, the whole time I'm like, okay, this is a test run. Okay, this isn't the real thing. This is, because I'm like, that's not perfect. This is not perfect. But it's good, but it's not perfect. And it's been so interesting to hear from people who've been going through them. They're like, that was really powerful. Like, we learned a lot. Yes, there's ways to improve it. And I keep getting the feedback. And also what happened, the mistakes were the right mistakes. Like, it just feels like we're learning in the right ways. So this year it's been taking it to all these places. So we're 4 in and we have 4 to go. There was supposed to be 5 total, but again, I can't say no. Like, if people are like, it's really hard. And what's so sad is every time we post one, like 20 cities are like, when are you coming here?
Wait a minute.
And I'm just like, oh, part of me, it's so funny, right? I have like the dual reaction, because my first reaction is like, how dare you ask that? Do you know how hard we're working on every single one of these that we pull off? Like, don't ask for more. And then the other part is like, yeah, I want everyone to want this. And I want to actually build an infrastructure in which everyone can have it. Like, I don't want there to be any bottleneck, right? So that's what we're working on. And it's exhausting. And it keeps changing. Like, the requirement of it keeps changing. Like, initially I was just like, oh, this is like a workshop or like a training. And it's actually like so much more is opening up in each of these rooms and spaces. That's like requiring a different level of presence and attention from me, and takes time to recover from. Like, I finished one and it's like, right now we just finished the DC immersion, and I just felt my soul expand and weave with all these people. And, I am changed. I'm a different person now. And like, I feel that way after each one, that I'm like, I feel myself, I'm changed. Yes, it happened again. And now I'm something new in this room. There was a moment of grace and forgiveness that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. Wow. And each time something big happens like that, I'm like, I couldn't have foreseen this. I didn't quite know this is what was needed. Because it is emergent. It really is coming from the group. And if they go deeply enough into like, well, here's what we really need here. And sometimes it's healing. Sometimes it's joy. Sometimes it's dance. Sometimes it's song. Sometimes it's something else. But it feels like beloved community. Yeah. And so that's been the big thing I've been working on. And then interspersed with that has been pleasure activism events, which are really big and take a lot in a different way. Like, I love doing the pleasure events. People come, they bestow me with presents, and there's a lot of like, people are like, I'm here because I'm focused on pleasure, and that just is a great energy to have brought into a room ever.
Totally.
It's so good. And it's so interesting to navigate. Like, people are very like worshipful, and the energy is just odd, because I'm like, I'm still me, y'all. I just walked into the door, still me. And so, the only thing different is that this book is here, but I'm the same person who wrote that book, or whatever it is, I'm just like, so there, that has been the navigation and the learning of this period of my life, is like, what do I need to lean into in order to be a good channel for the work that's meant to move through me? And then what are the boundaries I need to structure in order to be with the work that needs to move through me? And what I'm going to do with our break time is, there's going to be, I think, 2 more immersions during that time. And I'm going to turn 41, and wow. I'm going to, because I think we're going to just take August and September, right? Yeah. So I'm going to turn 41, and which I feel super chill about. I'm actually going to be in a somatics course, probably crying all day for my birthday, and I feel good about it. I'm just like, LOL, time to go feel some feels, and like, just get to be a learner, my learner body. I'm going to get to come see you and the family, and and I feel like this is a summer of pleasure and love, and so I'm just really leaning into letting pleasure and love flow through my life right now. And just like relaxing, like every place I go, everyone I interact with, just being like, is there love available in this interaction? If not, let's keep moving. It's all good. Yeah. It's all good. And it's just been like, it's just a different way to approach my life. And it feels like there's ease coming in. I'm absolutely over the moon about the people that I'm getting to work with right now. Melinda, Lou, and Mia are like my core team, and we're just producing miracles, right?
You have such an incredible team.
They're so bomb. They're so bomb. And like every team that comes together for each of the events is also just a miraculous body. So that's me. That's what's up with me. Oh, and Toshi and I are going to be recording the first episodes of another podcast, which is going to be focused on the parables of Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talent.
So exciting.
And the idea is that like we'll be releasing that between now and the election in 2020 as a way for people to really like, hear the guidance and prophecies of Octavia for this time. So
excellent.
That's going to be the other thing we're working on.
Excellent.
How about you, sister dear? So much.
Yeah, I think my that this time in my life has been marked by transition, and the time that's coming ahead during which we're going to be on break from the podcast is also, I would say, just a time of massive transition. As you know, and as many of our listeners, if they follow me on social media, are likely aware, I am getting divorced, and the process of untying and ending my partnership of 16 years really started at the beginning of 2019 when I went into my sabbatical. It was shortly after my sabbatical. And we just went public with our decision to end our marriage at the end of June. So it took quite a long time between when the dissolving began and when we actually went public with it.
Which I just want to give y'all props for, because I think it's really hard in this day and age to have a private process of any sort.
Yeah.
Both as a private or public person or whatever, people, it's just like so hard to have privacy. And I'm really grateful for how y'all navigated having your privacy.
Yeah. And I think it was, it was very important to both of us to have some pretty tight boundaries around who knew and had access to information about what was happening. And that continues to be the case. So I think I want to say really clearly that even as I'm sharing this news via the podcast, that I am not at a point of readiness to talk about what happened and why, and I probably won't be for a very long time. I feel very committed to staying in a space of like dignity and compassion for myself and for my partner, and who will always be family and will always be my co-parent. And so that means that there's like most of what has happened in my personal life and in that relationship will never be talked about, and that's fine with me. What I can talk about is the fact that I've had like incredible support through this process. I've had a support team in place throughout the duration of the process. And I've really been, I feel like I've survived this loss experience because of community and friendship and love, like letting love in, learning to be vulnerable, learning to actually ask for help, and allow myself to really start to fall apart, which is not something that I am it's territory that I am neither familiar with, good at, and in many ways I feel like I'm really just at the beginning of a journey of like learning what it would look like for me to be able to actually come apart. And in many ways the space of my sabbatical was the design of that space going into it was that it would be a safe place for me to do that in, and that ended up not being my experience. That I didn't have access to the safety to go through any kind of restorative or healing process for myself, and so I know that time will come. Right now, I'm very focused on keeping myself and my children stable as we
Yeah.
move through like the biggest transition we have ever gone through as a family. And part of that transition, as I sort of queued up at the top during our credits, is that we're relocating. We're moving to the Twin Cities, and that means that we are leaving this beautiful home and beautiful 5 acres of land in the woods in rural Minnesota where we've lived for the last 7 years. And that in and of itself, like in addition to the loss of my partnership and the loss of my family as I knew it, I'm also losing this beautiful piece of land and this life that I built in a very intentional way with my partner. And so there's a lot of loss and a lot of excavation happening, and also a lot of renewal and letting in newness and letting in like wellness that's happening at the same time, which has been really, really interesting to be like, oh, like part of what I'm doing at this stage in my life is like establishing new healthy patterns, both in relationship to myself and in relationship to others. And I'm very lucky that that in this process, and particularly in the transition that I'm about to go through to moving to the Twin Cities, that I'm moving to a place where I already have a very strong community in place. So there's a whole crew of folks who are like ready and waiting to receive me and my family. And I feel very like I feel so grateful, because I think it would be very hard to be making a transition like this without, if I was having to move to a place where I didn't know anyone. And so not only do I know people, but many of the people that I would consider to be a part of my closest beloved community are there. So the next, the August, September is going to be, the last 6 months have been a roller coaster. The next 2 months are absolutely going to continue to be a roller coaster as I have to go through the process of moving, establishing myself and my children in a new home, in a new school, selling my house and land. And I'm already in the work of preparing my property to be sold, and it is really, really hard work. So you can probably hear in my voice, like I'm just continue to be in a pretty high level of fatigue, and have been since a year ago.
I mean, that's the thing I keep thinking about all of this, is that you were already so tired when you finally acknowledged that you needed a sabbatical. And then it's like, and this is what life threw your way, and you've beasted it. You really have beasted it. You have done such incredible work of being, mom and person and, friend and sister and worker in all of it. And I just want to really uplift that. I think you're going to need a sabbatical round 2. But like, I think there's going to need to be a different kind of break. It's not an LOL. I'm totally serious. I feel, like when I really think about what's being lost in all of this, there's been so much grief for me too. And, when you speak about leaving the land or all of it, I'm just like, oh yeah, like it's a major thing, for the whole family. And you've been right at the center of that. And it's so incredibly tender. And I'm like, I'm really grateful that we're going to take this 2 months of time to at least rest from this piece. And I think it's really exciting to know that, like, when we come back on the other end, there will be some landing, right?
Yeah.
Because I think it's been like trying to do all the things while still in flight.
Yeah. I mean, it has been really, it was interesting going into recording today, knowing that we were going to talk about like what has been actually happening and what is happening in our lives right now, and thinking back about how this particular season unfolded, and, thinking for sure about the live shows and some of what was happening on those very nights in my life that that like for sure impacted my experience of those events, but also thinking back to the call that you and I made together pretty early in the season that we were going to orient this season towards interviews because of the fact that I was not in a position to be able to really share in any kind of depth and vulnerability about what was happening in my life, which I think I would imagine has been like a noticeable difference for our listeners. So now you know why. And I'm
Right.
and I'm looking forward to being able to shift back into the gear of being able to be in more depth and vulnerability when we come back from our hiatus in the fall. I really hope that that's a place that I can re-enter. And I'm just going to continue giving myself a lot of space to erect the containers around myself that I need in order to feel protected and safe.
That's so good.
And
That's
I'm going to
so good.
continue inviting everyone I'm in relationship with in to help me hold this container that protects me and keeps me safe, because that is the most important. The more that I feel protected and safe, the better job I can do parenting my children and keeping them protected and safe, and then like showing up in the world to do the work that I'm called to do. And that feels, I feel like even inside of this, the absolute tenderness and dissolving of this moment, I still feel, and maybe more than ever, feel very on purpose in my life.
Oh,
And
yes.
that, as I had shared with our listeners via the live show in March, and I imagine this would take on new meaning to people now, but I still managed during my sabbatical to finish a final draft of my book in spite of what was happening in my life. And I really mean in spite of. And so like, I feel like, I do feel that there's a commitment in me now.
If you ever doubted that I was a boss bitch, well,
Right.
I'm a boss bitch.
Right.
And my name is Boss Bitch.
And my phone is literally called Boss Bitch. And so I like, if you ever hook it up to any sound system ever, you would see my phone is
Like,
called
oh,
Boss
there's a Boss
Bitch.
Bitch listening now.
And there's a Boss Bitch in the car. And so I really do feel like, I have accessed in this time in my life a commitment to my own creative work and my own creative process that I didn't get to experience before. And that has felt very powerful and very sort of like prescient in terms of what's to come in my life as I make this big transition.
I love it. And I mean, I will say this. I feel the same way. Like, I feel like we've been going through it, that I do feel like it's like we're holding each other in the storm. And I feel like that's what my relationships are with so many people right now, is like, because the systems that we're a part of must fall apart right now. Like, that's just what needs to happen in order for the next phase of our human evolution to really be able to transpire. There's just ways that we've been that will never work. And so there's a way that's like, as the wind picks up, all of us holding onto each other's hands and hearts and like really feeling ourselves in a pattern that has to flow support in every possible direction and also receive it. I feel like I want to give you a high five across time, space continuums, because I feel like both of us this year have been doing so much better at asking for and receiving support. And that's been the learning. And that's why we're going to take this break.
in terms of this pattern that you're talking about, the last thing I'll say about that is that I think that is absolutely true. And I think that one of the things that I'm witnessing in my own life and in the lives of most people that I'm close to is that that we're holding on to each other in a new pattern, that people have been in constellations and are reforming into new constellations of support. And I'm witnessing that happening across the lives of everyone I'm intimate with, where it's like, oh, that pattern or that constellation or that particular system isn't working, but if you slightly pivot, adjust, and now you're in a new constellation, and this is the constellation that's going to carry you through this storm now. And that has been very powerful to witness at more of like a hawk's eye level. I can see it, and it's been really illuminating for my own process too.
And it's wild. I absolutely accept that adaptation or that, shift, because it does feel to me like it's new patterns of support. and it feels like the key to the kingdom, as Beyonce's new song speaks about. It feels like the way in is vulnerability. Like you have to be willing to say, I'm scared, I'm overwhelmed, I'm losing my shit,
I can't do this.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I need help. And then if you can get it out of your mouth, someone will come and answer that. That's wild to me.
Yeah.
Grow from your past, gotta face it. Oh yeah. You're the key to the kingdom.
So one thing I want our readers, they're not readers. Everyone's
Listeners.
a reader to me. One thing I want our listeners to know is that we are lining up guest podcast things for y'all. So there will still be content coming out from End of the World podcast over these 2 months. So you won't just be out here. We have several podcasts, sister podcasts that we love, that we want to uplift. And we have some content that hasn't been shared yet that we think you would enjoy from us. So you'll still be receiving from us. It just won't be like original
Little
shows.
surprises. Little
Yeah.
surprises. Thanks for listening to our show. We're on Twitter and Instagram at End of the World PC. We're also on Facebook at End of the World Show.
Oh my God, you're so good. If you'd like to make a donation to our show, you can do so at patreon.com/End of the World Show. We need it.
Another helpful thing you can do to help our show sustain itself is to write us a review on Apple Podcasts. If you are an iPhone person, thank you for doing that.
Our show is produced and edited by the incomparable Zach Rosen, who's also a really good baby daddy.
Music for today's show comes from Tunde Olaniran, Mother Cyborg, and hopefully Beyonce, if we can just like stick that in there somewhere.